Welcome. On behalf of both the Kansas City International Rotary Club and the Empowering Women in Rotary organization, I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to this exciting event. My name is Jacob Wilson, 2020-2021 KCI Rotary Club President, and it is an honor for me to kick off today's festivities. We have more than 350 members on this webinar, and both our KCI Club and Empowering Women in Rotary are very excited to see everyone today. Now, I want to take this opportunity to welcome our special guest and speaker to our webinar, Rotary International President nominee, Ms. Jennifer Jones. Now, a few housekeeping items. Since this Zoom meeting is a webinar, all participants are on mute and all participants are on a view-only setting. In this webinar, all participants will not be able to see one another. If you would like to submit a question as part of the Q&A section of today's webinar, instead of raising your hand, please use the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen. Our facilitators are looking forward to asking Jennifer your own questions later in the webinar. Realizing that not everyone is a Rotarian on the webinar today, I'm sure there are a few today asking yourself, what exactly is Rotary? What is it about Rotary that attracts over 1 million people to be a member of this organization from over 200 countries? Rotary is a network of 1.2 million neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change. Across the globe, in our communities, and lastly, in ourselves. Our Kansas City International Rotary Club was founded on January 22nd, 1975. Since the founding of our club has grown our educational foundation to over $500,000 and actively manage resources for scholarships to local high school seniors. On a yearly pre-COVID basis, our club donates roughly $20,000 a year through various charitable fundraisers to organizations that we love dearly. I'm incredibly honored to be elected president of our current 2020-2021 Rotary year, and I look forward to continuing to oversee the success of our Rotary Club moving forward. Now, I would like to introduce two-time past KCI Rotary President, Mr. Jeff Elsey, to lead us in prayer and pledge.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the blessings you have given us. We take those blessings seriously and do our best to use them wisely. Rotarians around the world give of their time and talents to accomplish projects benefiting those less fortunate, helping those less educated, guiding those without direction, being truthful, treating everyone fairly, and by benefiting those with whom we interact. We're honored today to have Rotary International President nominee Jones share with us her Rotary story, her goals and objectives for Rotary, and her guidance on how to accomplish those goals. We thank President nominee Jones for her dedication to Rotary and her inspiration for those that will follow. Please bless these words, your words to our souls. In your name we pray, amen. Now, if you'll please join me in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeff. We greatly appreciate you attending and participating today. Before we get started, I would like to take a few moments and welcome everyone to KCI Rotary's next fundraising event. On February 4th at 7 p.m., KCI Rotary, in partnership with Hillcrest Platte County Ministries, will host our Zoom bingo and raffle event. 100% of net proceeds will benefit Hillcrest Platte County. If you would like to purchase either a bingo card or raffle tickets, please email kcirotary@gmail.com for more information. Hillcrest Platte County is a Christian organization that offers supportive services for individuals and families who are homeless or insecurely housed to achieve sustainable independence. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator and past 6080 District Governor, Ms. Susan Harrelson. Susan is the chairman of the Empowering Women in Rotary.
Thank you, Jacob. Good afternoon and welcome. Missouri Rotary history was made in 2018, when for the first time, 4 women took the helm as district governor. Each of us trained together for 3 years and became good friends. The RI theme that year was to be the inspiration. We wanted to keep our camaraderie alive for the future and continue to inspire. So we formed the Empowering Women in Rotary group that same year. Julie, Jane, Linda, and I held our first conference in 2019. Then in 2020, we all know what happened, so we made the decision to hold motivational Zoom meetings. Last fall, just a deep dive into Rotary's area of focus. Our Empowering Women in Rotary's next Zoom meetings will be held in April, July, and November of this year, so please stay tuned. But none of this would be possible without the help of incoming RI Director Elizabeth Yusevich, Major Gifts Officer Pamela Stewart, Rotary Coordinator Rita Esterly, and Zoom aficionado Jill Petrozinski, plus our committee made up of past and future district governors. Now I'd like to introduce you to my fellow Assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator, Jane Lowe. She's the past president of the Plymouth, Minnesota Rotary Club and the Rotary Club of Bentonville, Arkansas, where she was honored as Rotarian of the Year in 2011. Jane was also honored to serve as district governor during the 2018-19 Rotary year. She currently serves District 6110 as the membership chair. Welcome, Vice Chair of Empowering Women in Rotary, Jane Lowe.
Thank you so much, Susan, and welcome everyone. We are thrilled to have you joining us today to get to know our first woman president nominee, Jennifer Jones. And I see that we have some other Rotary dignitaries with us, so let's take a moment to recognize them. First, Larry Lunsford. He's our Rotary Foundation trustee-elect and past RI director. Mr. Floyd Lancia, our current Zones 30-31 Rotary International Director. We have past RI directors Fred Hahn and wife Marge, as well as Karen Wentz and her spouse, District Governor Ron Apoon, with us as well. Incoming director-elect, or our director-elect for Zones 30 and 31 is Miss Elizabeth Yusevich. Zone 31 Rotary Coordinator, Dr. Rita Esterly, and our good friend, Zone 31 Major Gifts and Endowment Officer, Pamela Stewart. Our sitting district governor serving the 4 districts of Empowering Women in Rotary are also with us today. We have Don Gladhart from District 6040, Tom Drennan, District 6060, Ms. Jackie Howard from District 6080, and Dr. Jay Craig, District 6110. Welcome to all of the other past district governors and sitting governors that are attending this webinar. And I thank you all so much for joining us today. And I also apologize if I missed anyone. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our facilitators for today. Julie McCoy joined the Chillicothe, Missouri Rotary Club in 1991. She served as district governor in 2018-19 and currently serves District 6040 as the Rotary Leadership Institute Coordinator. Julie is on the Show Me Rotary Council Board as their treasurer. She is also secretary of Empowering Women in Rotary, which she loves doing because she gets to spend time with her fellow past district governors, Susan, Linda, and me. Together, they try to continue to be the inspiration to other Rotarians. Jennifer Bergman is president-elect of the KCI Rotary Club and is also the membership chair. Jennifer serves as the CFO for Unite Private Networks. She was the Wichita Business Journal Women in Business honoree in 2014 and is the diversity chair for KC Financial Executives International. Jennifer and her husband enjoy watching their son play baseball on the weekends. Take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jane. I want to thank our planning committee that's been working on this event. Hosting a webinar for this many attendees takes a lot of planning, logistics, and teamwork. Thank you to KCI Rotary Club Jacob Wilson and Kelly McDowell Kennett, 6040 District Governor-elect David McCoy, and past district governors from Empowering Women in Rotary, Julie McCoy, Susan Harrelson, Jane Lowe, and Linda Pubauer. Thank you also to Kirby Osplin, District 6040 Public Image Chair, who helped us promote this event, and Mandy Sheldon, Executive Director, Rotary Club 13, for her technical assistance today. So how did today come about? In April of last year, our club was fortunate to host Deepak Menon, the president of Toastmasters International, who spoke to us about their partnership with Rotary. So how do you top him as a speaker? Of course, you book Jennifer Jones, the first female Rotary International president ever in the club's 115-year history. I've been fortunate to be taking part in a Rotary International initiative called Club Membership Support. Harris Sofragia, Rotary International Regional Membership Officer, has been helping me and supporting me with membership. Everything from surveying club members, navigating the Rotary website, and sharing best practices. I asked Harris about potential speakers, and one of the names he mentioned was Jennifer Jones. I reached out, introduced myself, and asked her to speak to our club. A little back and forth, she said yes, but little did we know a short time later, she would be named the 2022-2023 incoming Rotary International President. I was thrilled to find out she could still keep her commitment to speak to our club, and who better to share this with than the Empowering Women in Rotary organization. Now I'll turn it over to Julie McCoy to introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Jennifer Bergman. It is quite the honor today to introduce you to our featured speaker, Jennifer Jones. Jennifer is no stranger to our Midwest districts. She's attended many of our president-elect trainings as well as district conferences, and I know Missouri Rotarians hold her deep in our heart and consider her to be a great friend. Jennifer is a member of the Rotary Club of Windsor-Roseland in Ontario, Canada. She has been nominated to become Rotary International President in the 2022-23 Rotary year. This groundbreaking selection makes her the first woman to hold this office in our organization's 115-year history. In her vision statement, Jennifer said, "As we reflect upon our new strategic priorities, we could have never envisioned that our ability to adapt would become our North Star in what is inarguably the most profound time in recent history." As the first woman to be nominated as Rotary International President, Jennifer understands how important it is to follow through on Rotary's diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. And I quote, "She believes diversity, equity, and inclusion begins at the top. And for us to realize growth in female members and members under the age of 40, these demographics need to reflect see their own reflection in leadership." Jennifer is the founder and president of Media Street Productions, Inc., an award-winning media company in Windsor, Ontario. She currently serves as a Rotary Foundation trustee and has been a Rotarian since 1997. Jennifer recently led the successful #Rotary Response Telethon, which raised critical funds for COVID-19 relief. The broadcast was reviewed by more than 65,000 people. You can see why the Rotary world loves Jennifer Jones. She lives and breathes Rotary values, and we couldn't be more excited that she will be the first woman president of Rotary. So please welcome Jennifer Jones as she begins her presentation today by sharing her Rotary journey with us. Jennifer?
Well, thank you, Julie. And it is absolutely a joy to be able to be with all of you. And as all of the names were recognized, Julie recognized all of the dignitaries on our call today. So many good friends, and even more that I've met over the many different times that I've been in your area. And I would like to just acknowledge a couple of folks before I get started. And it was mentioned, actually, Julie mentioned in my intro about currently being a trustee. And I'm very pleased to say that as much as I loved being a trustee, I had to relinquish that position to take on this one. And I am so proud that Larry Lunsford is one of your own, and he is going to serve so brilliantly at the trustee level. Today, earlier, I was in the board meeting with Directors Floyd and Director-elect Elizabeth. Both of them always making an incredible contribution. And we will convene again tomorrow, and you'll learn some of the exciting things that the board has been tackling over today, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And also, I'd like to acknowledge my good friend Karen and Ron. We served on the board together back in 15 through 17, and we went through a whole bunch of things, including a lot of dialogue about empowering women. And she's been a great advocate on that front. And past director Fred and Marge, it is great to see you as well. And I'm going to stop because I know that I'm going to go down a long slope. But let me just say, the way it is said in other parts of the world, all protocols observed. And so I do recognize that everyone, quite candidly, on the call is a dignitary and a leader in our organization. So thank you for having me. I do want to start out with a reflection, and that is one from the last time that I was in your beautiful part of the world about 2 years ago. It was February, and I was there for an event. Many of you were all in attendance as well. And it was during that time that I was home hosted by our good friend Greg Yank and Catherine. And it was such an incredible couple of days spending time in their home and being able to, we all get to know each other through Rotary in many different ways, but when you spend time in someone's home, it really does change the dynamic. You get to see each other in a very different kind of way. And I'll cherish, quite honestly, those memories for the rest of my life. And I know that for many of you, he was an incredibly dear friend and someone that we all loved very, very much. And so my condolences to all of you who are on this call who considered him to be one of your closest Rotary family members. And for some of you, I know that it even transcended Rotary in very meaningful ways. So the other thing that I wanted to reflect on, and this is going to maybe switch gears in a very big and stark jump, but I hope there's nobody from Tampa on the call, because I'm thinking that we need to say Kansas in the house, going to the Super Bowl. I've got to confess, I look like I'm a sports fan, but I was on my way into my virtual studio here, and Nick said, "What are you doing?" And I told him, he says, "Well, you got to talk about the Super Bowl." I'm like, "Okay, they're in the Super Bowl," and he's like, "Mm-hmm." So I must confess, I'm not a great sports follower. However, we are having a virtual Super Bowl party, so maybe that counts a little bit. I know that for the next few minutes, I was asked to give a little bit of a personal journey about my own involvement in Rotary and how I've come to, I guess, where I'm at. And then we're going to switch into questions and answers with Julie and Jennifer, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then I think we're opening up the floor past that. So for folks that have any questions or thoughts, I certainly want to be as interactive during our time together as possible. And not just this way, but a little bit more of this way, the way that we can learn from each other. So if I reflect back to my original roots in service, I think back to my childhood, and my parents were really, quite candidly, the driving force in, I think, where I am today. They instilled both in my brothers and my two brothers and myself a sense of service, of understanding that our community and giving back was something that was important. I'm sure that resonates probably with many of you. We joined things like Girl Guides, we call them in Canada, Girl Scouts in the United States. My brothers were Cubs. I was a Brownie and a guide, and those are different formative years. And my parents instilled in us this ability to dream and to think outside the box, to never tell us that something wasn't possible. And at the time, obviously, I had no idea what that meant, but I reflect on that now, and it was such a gift to not ever think that something was not within our reach. And even when things didn't necessarily go the way that we had hoped, and that's a continuum throughout our lives, they were always there to pick us up and to say, but keep trying and keep going forward and keep striving for the things that mean something. And so, you know, we would collect pop bottles and raise money for our local hospital and have fun fairs in our backyard and different things like that. And it never felt like that was strange. That always felt like that was a normal part of life. And so I think as I know that as I grew older, I was looking for those kinds of outlets, those kinds of opportunities. And I think many of us have found our way to Rotary through similar kind of thinking. Now, fast forward to being a young professional. I was actually still in university when I had my first sort of real job. I had a bunch of part-time jobs, but my first real job working in radio. And I started out, quite honestly, as the world's worst overnight disc jockey. But then I moved quickly into the area where I found a passion, and that was in the newsroom. And I was sent out as a rookie reporter to cover all assortment of stories. But at the time, in the early 80s, I also went out to cover Rotary Club meetings. Now, I think probably most of you on this call know that it took until 1987 for women to be permitted to join our organization, and it took a Supreme Court ruling for that to happen. But back in the early 80s, that was history that we didn't know about yet. So I would attend these Rotary Club meetings, and the titans of my community would be there. And quite honestly, I found it quite intimidating and quite daunting. You know, I was this, you know, young, eager, fresh rookie reporter, and talking to these folks sometimes seemed way past what I was even capable of getting my head around. And you know, it's interesting to think of today, many years later. Maybe not so many years later, but some of those are just still some of my dearest friends, and how interesting things come full circle. And so it did take a few years later for women to join our organization, and it wasn't until actually a decade after that that I was invited to join a Rotary Club. And I remember walking into the club that I belonged to, and you know, it just kind of felt like I arrived somewhere that felt like home. I knew some of the folks. I didn't know many of them. It was pretty much at that point in our club, we were pretty progressive. It was about, we had gender parity at that point, and now we're about 75% women to men in our club. But at that point, you know, it just felt like like-minded people, and it felt like a place that I could really spend some time. And the most important thing that I think I took away from all of that, and what launched me in a direction to where I know that I'm at today, was the incredible opportunity for personal growth and development, both leadership skills, professional skills, all different things that I learned through my Rotary experience that could be parlayed and actually amplified in my vocational life. And I hope that resonates with you if you think about your own journey, that, you know, I can say that I'm better at event management, I'm better at public relations, I'm better at board governance, I'm better at public speaking, all because of my experience being a Rotarian. And that has been something that has been a journey that has carried on and has expanded over the next couple of decades. I certainly spent a lot of time in my community, participating in local boards. I had the great opportunity to chair my Chamber of Commerce at one point, and that was something, again, where I felt like I was really stepping out of my comfort zone, if you will, and taking on a challenge that again felt maybe bigger than I was capable of. But gosh, you know, every time you do something like that, you learn. And from there, I went on to chairing the university where I attended, the University of Windsor, and chairing that board of governors, and another incredible growth opportunity to see the impact of education in it from an institutional perspective, and the kind of governance of higher learning, and the actually the depth and scope of both the financial and the governance aspects of being part of a board like that. It was really something that opened my eyes, and I think really actually put me in good stead for future positions that I would hold within our organization. And so when I stepped into my board role serving with Karen, I felt very prepared and, you know, ready to try to tackle some of the challenges in front of us with regard to our organization, and prepared from the perspective of maybe having more self-confidence to sit at the table and to understand that my voice was equal with the partners that I had around the table. And that, as a woman leader, I think was an important step to be able to come to a position on the board as a qualified Rotarian and not sitting there representing a gender, if you will. While that's very important, and we'll, I know, speak about that a little bit later on. I had the great opportunity to serve as our vice president, and that was because of a great mentor and friend, John Germ, another dear friend of, I know, your area as well. And he and I had a great time being able to serve in that capacity with each other. And then being able to serve on our board of trustees, again, another layer of depth of knowledge and expansion of personal growth and leadership opportunity, which led to the next step. And I'm very pleased, and I know that we're going to talk about this in a little bit too, so I won't talk about the role of presidency right now, but it's one that I'm extraordinarily excited and proud and pleased and honored to be able to represent all of us, both men and women, across our globe. And so why don't I stop at that and entertain Julie and Jen. I know we want to get into some questions that you've got prepared, and then we can maybe open it up.
You bet. Thank you, Jennifer. I loved your Rotary felt like home. I just recently moved my family from Wichita to Kansas City, and Rotary was that one constant for me that felt like home. And so that really resonated with me. So how does it feel to be the first woman selected as the president of Rotary International?
Well, I guess I sort of just said that a little bit in the closing there, that I feel incredibly honored and privileged, and I feel it's a great, I don't want to say it's a great weight, but I certainly feel the importance of opening this door because, as was said in the introduction, I really do believe that if we're going to grow the demographics that we've been looking to grow in our organization, women members under the age of 40, that we do have to see ourselves reflected in leadership, authentic leadership opportunities. And so I believe that this is a door that will perhaps open the opportunities as President Holger talks about all of the time, for those who think that, you know, perhaps if she can do it, maybe I can too. And, you know, if others believe that they can be empowered to take on leadership roles, each of us are going to continue to inspire and mentor and motivate others behind us. And it's not about gender. It's about looking for the best and the brightest. We just have an opportunity to grow demographics that have been underrepresented in our organization. And so I know that I hope to use my voice to be able to hopefully inspire and motivate others to say that this is a space that I want to inhabit. This is a space where I believe that I can make a difference. And if we can all collectively do that together, what a wonderful opportunity. But one thing, you know, I have been firm in saying is that I know that this was reflected from the nominating committee to me directly, and it's something that I feel very strongly about, is that I arrived in this space because I was qualified and not because we were looking to check a box to put a woman into the role. It's very exciting that we have a woman in the role, but it's more important for us to understand that we have qualified women now at a level in our organization, just as we have with our male colleagues. And so sitting down for the interview was not being, I was not sitting there as a woman, I was sitting there as a qualified Rotarian, and I was glad to be selected as such.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think you might have answered my next question, so I'm going to switch gears a minute and ask you, I'm sure you have had many Rotary aha moments. Is there one that sticks out in your mind that's your favorite?
Oh, wow. So I would throw that back at all of you. Think of how many aha moments we've all had, and they're numerous. I mean, to try to pick out one or more is hard. From the perspective of this being an empowering women's event, maybe let me reflect on this moment, and maybe not necessarily an aha moment. Well, perhaps it is, but the last official task that I had as a district governor was actually inducting my mom into the same Rotary Club that she and I belong to. And the opportunity to witness her expressing herself and becoming a different kind of leader than she had been before she walked through those doors, and growing and being able to, as adult women together, mother and daughter, to be able to sort of walk that journey together, to see her blossom in her leadership potential and opportunity. I don't know if you'd call that an aha, but wow, what an incredible thing to be able to share, and something that, you know, we still talk about to this day. She went on to be a club president, and she calls me with her ideas on a regular basis, so I know where I get it from.
I love that story about your mom. Jennifer, what advice would you give a young female Rotarian?
Well, good question. Best advice I think I can probably give to a young female Rotarian right now is to, again, like I think I said earlier, dream your dreams. Dream what it is that you want to do and share that with others. If there's a position that you're interested in, if there's a goal that you have that you want to achieve, you know, there's nothing wrong with sharing that with people to aspire to something and to think about, you know, what is the path forward for you, and then set steps in motion to how you can achieve something like that. You don't just join a Rotary Club and become an international president. There's a lot in between there that happens, both because of mentors, because of people around you, because of experience, but because of intentionality and understanding that if you want to excel at something, that you need to understand what that is, to set goals in your mind, or to write them down and to think of how you can take those steps forward. And because, as I said, we have such incredible opportunity to grow as individuals within our organization, everything that we sort of take on adds another layer to who we are and the capacity that we all have inside. And so if you're looking to grow as a leader and you want to take on other things, maybe, you know, looking at your skill set development and where you have the greatest strengths, and perhaps more importantly, where are your weaknesses? Where can you get better? Let me use public speaking as an example. There is, you know, I say this all the time. If somebody believes that they're a great public speaker and they hang their hat on that, then they should probably just give up, because everybody has room to improve. Even the greatest orators of our time can always get better. And so practicing that, honing your skill set, making sure that it's something that benefits you as a leader, something that enhances, you know, how you step forward in the world and what you put forward. And I guess advice to a younger woman in terms of being a leader, and maybe this is the more profound piece of advice: be yourself, be your authentic self, and show up the way that you are. Don't try to fit the mold of what someone else has deemed what you should look like, what you should sound like, who you should be. There's times when I know I've been counseled to be more maybe male-like in my leadership style, and you know, don't let anybody ever put that blanket on you. You have to be authentic to who you are, to show up as you are, and to reflect the intentionality of your actions purely by who you are as a person.
That is actually wonderful advice. So thank you so much for that. On a related topic, we know that the average age of Rotarians is well above 40. So what would be your advice to clubs to recruit those members of a younger age group?
Thanks, Julie. You know what? I've said this many times, many ways, many years, and so many of you may have heard me use this phrase before, but I really believe that we should be targeting young thinkers. And so we've been trying to attract members under the age of 40 in earnest for years. And we have moved the needle in a negligible way, less than 2% to be candid. And so there is something to be said about, you know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, I think if we frame this through the perspective of young thinkers, have you met a 25-year-old who's old? Have you met an 85-year-old who's young? We need people in our organization who have the ability to think in a progressive way, to think in fresh ways, to understand that we can always evolve. Don't count me out because I'm 53 for one more day. You know, our voice is important at every single juncture of our life. And so keeping fresh, keeping on top of things is really important, because I would rather be in a club of members over 40 who were progressive in thinking than a member of a club that was under 40 yet stayed in their ways. So we clearly need to do a good job of bringing in younger members, because that's how we're going to backfill. That's how we're going to continue to thrive and survive as an organization. But if we can be a progressive organization that is attractive, that people say, I like the way they think, younger people are going to want to be with us because they're going to be like-minded.
Thank you, Jennifer. Agree. Definitely want us to think about being a progressive organization. What do you do to inspire others?
What do you do to inspire others? Well, you know what? Let me go back to a little bit of what I said just a few seconds ago. I think being authentic to who you are is something that is very meaningful to me. I don't want to be someone different than who I appear to be. And hopefully that resonates with others who say, you know, I like that. And I want to be my authentic self as well. So I hope that inspires. But I think that if we talk about it from maybe more of a broader perspective, how can we inspire people in our organization? I think that the number one way that we can do it is by showcasing the breadth and scope of what it is that we house within our organization, that everyone has an opportunity to touch something that means something directly to them. If we're talking about the under 40 sector that we were just discussing, you know, we're introducing the environment as our 7th area of focus on the 1st of July this year. And I know that is something that means a lot to that demographic that has grown up seeing that our world, regardless of your beliefs in climate change, I don't even want to go down that path at the moment, but regardless of belief in any of that, we all know that we only have one planet A. We don't have a planet B. And so we all have to treat her well, and we have to do well by it. And so I think that there will be a lot of young people inspired to make a difference, big and small, through that area of focus. But each one of us has the opportunity to say, I want to be a peace builder. I want to save mothers and babies. I want to teach kids to read. I want to, we have so much in front of us that can inspire us to get out of bed every day. And even though we're right now, in the confines of our homes and being socially distant, think of the amazing inspiration that we've seen from Rotarians around the world who've been able, and I know that I'm looking into the lens right now at all of you who have been in your homes doing things during this global pandemic, where it's been, maybe you've been sewing masks or helping to raise money for PPE or ventilators, or understanding the food scarcity issues of your community, understanding that your neighbors might be isolated and needing extra care. All of these things, I don't know about you, but that's the kind of stuff that inspires me, is to see the steps that each of us as people of action can take because we're part of Rotary International.
Well, Jennifer, you've certainly been an inspiration to me over the years, and I've admired you from afar. I know it takes many, many years to become Rotary International president, and I consider you to be very, very young. So at what point did you know you to be Rotary International president, and what steps did you take to achieve that goal?
Thanks, Julie. Well, I don't know that I could pinpoint a date or an exact time. I think that if I reflect back authentically and think about, sort of the time and place of applying to sit on our international board, actually, let me take it back a step further than that. I remember applying to be a district governor. And I remember a couple of my friends at the time saying, like, really, you think you can do that? Like, and why would you do that kind of thing? And I just remember thinking to myself that I wanted that challenge. I wanted the challenge of being able to try to do that and to have a forum to be able to use my voice and to create change, not to just follow, but to lead. And I knew that was something that felt very part of my DNA. And maybe that's part of, as I talked about earlier, what my parents instilled in us. And so, when I applied for that and I went for the interview, I was the underdog. And there were those that interviewed at the time that had interviewed multiple times. And I served as a governor when I was 40. So I was, considered quite young when I was actually in that role. Only in Rotary can we be considered that young in certain roles. And so going on to serve as a director felt like a next challenge, a next step. And so there were, I guess, probably things that came in front of me, whether it was intentional or by design or by accident. And that was other opportunities to serve at committees both regionally and internationally in our organization that allowed me to see the global passport that we all own by being a member of Rotary, and to understand the connectivity, as President Mark last year talked so much about how we connect the world. Rotary connects the world. And that's not a trite statement. That is so true. I think of the connections that I have in every corner of the globe. And, many of you can say exactly the same thing because of Rotary. And so once I sort of, I think, understood the global impact, I just knew that I wanted to be able to be part of something where I could use my voice to, again, move forward priorities that I hoped could be part of this experience and part of Rotary's future DNA. And so I guess, each step has been a learning curve, a learning opportunity. To say that I have a moment where I said I want to do it, I don't know that I arrived at that, but I will tell you this, that when I completed my term serving as a director, and that is one of the things that you technically have to do, you have to have completed your term as a director, I ran right away. And, I had a lot of people who said to me, you need to slow down, you need to wait. And I knew that it was probably unrealistic, but I also knew that I had a lot of knowledge that was fresh, and I knew the topics of the day, and I didn't want to let that go. I wanted to make sure that, I could capitalize on those kinds of things. And so I think that, I was intentional in wanting to do it at that point. And I also understood that, it was going to take one of us as women to put our name in order for one of us to be selected. And no one had been at that point. And I really believed it was a time for our organization to open that door. And so I guess probably, it would sort of maybe culminate around that time that I kind of decided that I wanted to be all in, and I wanted to put my entire self in. And it took a couple of years, and that's okay, because you know what? It presented so many other incredible opportunities. And I'll be really honest. I don't like to lose. Who does? Nobody likes to lose. But the opportunities that came forward, in retrospect, I can see how so much stronger I'm poised now in this position because of those opportunities, whether it be as a trustee, whether it was as the moderator of our International Assembly last year, things like that really gave me additional depth. And I feel that has given me, so much more ability to step forward. Now, again, we never arrive. I'm going to continue to learn. And I know there are things that I don't know, and that's why I rely on people around me. That's why we have a board, so that we can, talk things through. That's why Elizabeth and I are going to have a great journey together, sitting on the board, being able to make sure that, because we have a friendship that goes back probably at least a decade, that we have shared knowledge of how to work together. And so many of our directors have that ability, which is something that I'm really looking forward to being able to see how we can take things for a ride.
Jennifer, thank you for going all in, because I know you are inspiring a lot of other young female Rotarians out there. I want to remind everyone to put questions in the Q&A. I think we have one more set of questions for Julie, and then we'll be moving over to the Q&A. For Jennifer. So go ahead and put questions in. Jennifer, did you have a mentor in Rotary? And if so, what did you learn from them?
I've had several mentors in Rotary, and interestingly enough, when I started to reflect upon this not so long ago, I really started to understand and realize that most of them actually were men. And the gratitude that I have for so many people who have at some point or another either taken me under their wing to help teach me things, that have opened a door to an opportunity that they thought I would be able to handle, that have been there to usher me along at different points, providing guidance and counsel. And, those are people that I don't know that I identified in the moment necessarily that I was being mentored, but as I've spent more time reflecting on that topic, I can clearly see the hand of so many. And I think back to a Rotarian that many on this call may have crossed paths with, and many of you who wouldn't have, Monty Audenart, who was a past director, past vice president, and he was a past aide to one of our international presidents. And I can see his hand, he's since passed, and I can see his hand woven through so many of the doors that opened in front of me. And sometimes he did it quietly, and sometimes he did it more overtly. And John Germ, our president that I talked about earlier, that he and I served with as he was president and I was his VP. And I learned so much from him. And even to this day, we talk constantly about Rotary, and actually more even now about life, and the just the ability to have, to have those that different level of friendship that comes into play, and trust, which is such an incredible thing when you have a mentor relationship. But let me just jump, if I may, to a concept of mentorship that I think is really important for us as an organization, in a way that I want us hopefully to try to think about in the weeks, years, months to come. And that is in particular to our youth members, our younger members, Rotaract, Interact, and others, alumni, other people who are affiliated with us. And traditionally we think of mentors from maybe a more hierarchical perspective, where the mentor is the one who's teaching and the mentee is the one who's learning. And I really honestly think that for our organization to thrive, that we need to be more in a cross mentorship kind of mentor ability, and that we have so much that we can learn from each other. And particularly if you think about what we're going through right now, this global pandemic, where every man, woman, and child on the planet has been touched, has been affected by this. And if you look at those under the age of 40, and even more specifically under the age of 20, their entire existence has been tied to things like this. It's an appendage. I mean, it's an appendage for all of us now. But they've never known a world different than being a global citizen. And, their way of thinking of things is completely different than how we thought about it when we were their age. And so I think they have an opportunity to help us see things differently. We have an opportunity to be able to share experience, life experience, things that we've had trial and error, that, hopefully in sharing those lessons, other people don't make those mistakes. But we also have the ability, I think, to open our eyes more widely, more broadly, and to understand that everyone, regardless of age, has something to contribute in a very, very valuable way.
I agree with you 100%. I think mentoring can be a very valuable tool in Rotary. My last question before we go to the Q&A section is, what would you like your legacy to be?
Ooh, you know what? I am going to say that that question, I asked that question, or someone asked that question actually of John Germ, and I'm trying to remember the circumstance around it. And the question was asked, maybe I asked him, I don't remember, but the question was asked, what do you want your legacy to be? And he said, I'm not here to build a legacy, I'm here to get working. And I think, I'm going to take a page out of that book. I'm not looking to build a legacy. I'm looking to get to work, and hopefully the fruits of that labor will be that other people see themselves reflected in opportunities that maybe could be something in their future.
Jennifer, thank you. I know I've taken down so many good quotes and gems away from everything that you have said. We're going to open it up for questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Linda Pubauer, who is going to help us with the Q&A questions. So Linda, take it away.
Thank you, everyone. Jennifer, it's so wonderful to see you.
You too.
We have time for just a few of the questions. I'd like to take one from Karen Ritter. The question is, what do you hope to accomplish during your term as president, and what will be your priority focus areas?
Well, thank you for the question. And so a couple of different things. And Certainly, I'm not going to do a deep dive on these because it's stuff that I'll be talking about in the next year, the next year ahead. One of the exciting things that we have right now is next week on February 1st, the opportunity to hear President-elect Shekhar Mehta from India to share with us his hopes and dreams and goals, and his theme on February 1st is something that we're all going to learn at that point, including me. We had a conversation about whether or not I wanted to know it, and I asked him, well, I said, well, do you want to tell me? Or he said, do you want me to tell you, or do you want to be surprised? And I said, well, what are you thinking? He said, I'd like you to be surprised. So I will be joining all of you in waiting to hear those words on February 1st. But I can tell you this much, that diversity, equity, and inclusion is something of incredible importance for our organization right now. We've taken on and adopted a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. We have formed a task force that Director Valerie Wafer is chairing, that is comprised of members, a diverse group of members from around the globe, working to create a toolkit, if you will, for all of us as club members to be able to understand how to do diversity, equity, and inclusion better. That we are uniquely poised as an organization that is non-political, non-religious, to house safe conversations about things that are maybe testing our mettle right now in our world. And so to look around our communities and to be a true, authentic reflection of them is important. And so dialogue about things like that diverse perspective, quite honestly, the issue, or not the issue, the topic of women in Rotary and being a woman leader, I very much frame from the perspective of diverse perspective, and that we're only going to, we're strongest when we hear from a diverse population, regardless whether that means gender, race, culture, religion. That's what Rotary does. It brings together this diversity, and it allows us, because of that, to solve the world's most pressing challenges in ways that others can't, not even government. And so that is what is unique to us. So I will be spending a lot of time in that kind of dialogue. I also believe that we can do and expand our external reach by talking with those about those who are leaders in different spaces about the role of service in civil society. And so I will be certainly placing some emphasis on that. And then in terms of the areas of focus, I have some special plans about each of the 7, but that's something for future conversations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This question is from Jane Lowe. Why is it important for Rotary to refrain from being a political organization?
Good question, Jane. I think that, it kind of harkens back to a little bit about what I was just saying about this diverse perspective. And, it's a safe space for us to be able to say when we walk through the doors that we can put down our differences. And at a point in time, culturally, that's a space we really need. And I think it's something that we have owned for 115 years. And I think it's something that we need to make sure people in our communities understand. This is a safe space to be able to come. And, it doesn't matter what race, what religion, what gender. These are, and there are many other distinguishing points of diversity that we could talk about. But it is a place for us to be able to come together and be able to have authentic dialogue about things. And when we're able to do that without retribution, when we're able to do that and understand that we're not going to be pointed at or ridiculed because of something that we believe, that we can make steps to better understanding. And at the end of the day, creating understanding creates world peace, the hallmark of who we are as an organization. And so the ability for us to, put down our differences and to be able to create a location, a safe place of understanding, and understanding sometimes that, we're going to have differences, and that's okay. And know that we can do it safely and provide that for those around us, I think is the hallmark of what we excel at in Rotary.
Thank you, Jennifer. This next question will be coming from Karen Wentz, and you may have touched on it already, but it was the first question to come in. How will you ensure that leadership doors are open for women and underrepresented groups?
Well, Karen knows best, as certainly serving as the chair of our Operations Review Committee. She's done extensive work in looking at the composition of our committees across the organization, and certainly from all of the standing committees of Rotary International to look at the gender balance and making sure that we point out, where the inequities are at. And that is such important work because we're not going to make a difference. We're not going to move the needle unless we understand the baseline of where we're at. We also know that the International Board took steps to put into place a percentage of, striving for 30% of leaders being women in all levels of our organization. Particularly at the board level, at the RI board, the trustees, the standing committees, where we could affect that kind of decision making. And, I want to say that this is incredibly important, and it is, and I believe it is, and it's something that obviously, just actually yesterday or earlier this week, I was looking at committee appointments for the upcoming year. And one of the things I did, I automatically went to, okay, each committee, how many men, how many women, like what are we looking for? But I also believe at the end of the day that we need to find the right people. And regardless of gender, we need the best and the brightest. And so sometimes a committee might be, 30, 70 female male or male female. Sometimes it's going to be others. But I think it's when we are intentional about understanding that we can open opportunities and that we're looking to cultivate people for different opportunities, that people are maybe stepping up and saying, hey, I've got expertise in this area and we know about it. Being able to apply for positions is something very different over the past several years in our organization, where we're looking for qualified talent and not just appointees, not just the, that's my friend, so I'm going to put them into that spot. So we've done a lot to try to neutralize some of the ability to maybe make more informed decisions based on qualified people. And then once we're looking at the qualified pool, looking for the best, but also with an eye on parity. And I believe that, we're taking good steps forward as an organization to achieve that.
Thank you, Jennifer. This question is from an anonymous source.
Oh, that means it's a hard one.
Your partner. How does your partner support your Rotary work?
Oh gosh, well, with his breathing, he supports me in every single action that this is a shared journey, and it's a conversation. Hello, every one of us is in our house with our families. We are together more than we've ever been in our entire lives with our families and our partners and kids and everybody else. And so we've got a lot of time to talk about the things that we're looking at, how we're looking at doing this. And one of the things that I'm this is really cool is that he's got a thriving medical practice. He's taking 2 years off actually on sabbatical to come and be with me full time in this journey. And it really is a shared journey because he has an incredible skill set in so many ways as a Rotarian. He's great. He's a great membership speaker. He's a great leader. He's been president of his club. He speaks incredibly well on a number of different topics. And so, I think we're a bit of a 2-for. We're going to go out and be able to connect with people in ways that, maybe we both do it a little bit differently, but complementing each other at the same time. And so I am just incredibly excited for us to be able to share it together.
That's very important to have a partner that supports you. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
The next question is from Larry Kennemore. It says, please define your definition of progressive.
Interesting. So progressive, I guess in my mind's eye, means not having barriers on the way that you look at things. We all know that we've had instances in our own clubs, every single one of us, where someone has said, well, that's not the way that we do it. And so understanding that that is something that shuts people down very, very quickly. Understanding that, when we can look at things maybe through a different lens, maybe when somebody brings up a suggestion that it's done a little bit differently, that we don't shut it down, that we entertain it. And so for me, progressive means looking at it through fresh eyes, understanding that the opportunity to grow, to to allow others to dream. And, one of the things that I think is so important that when we bring new members into our clubs is, to ask them, what is it they want out of this experience? And then deliver on that promise. We spend all of this time, encouraging clubs to do exit interviews when somebody leaves. And why are we spending our time and energy there when we should be asking someone when they walk through the front door, what do you want? And maybe that's something that's going to shake things up a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the status quo. But I think if we allow ourselves to open our eyes to things that could be done differently, embracing, diversity, as I said, especially from a generational standpoint right now, being able to understand that, some of our Rotaractors may have some of our best and brightest ideas. One of the main differences right now, I'll tell you, is that if you went to a Rotary Club and a Rotaract Club with an idea, you know what? We all know this. What would the Rotary Club do? They'd form a committee and we'd have meetings, lots of meetings. And you know what the Rotaract Club would do? They'd say, yeah, that's a great idea. And 2 weeks later, they'd have it done. We all need to learn from each other. So being progressive, I think, is that it's not a political connotation in my eyes.
Thank you, Jennifer. We have maybe one more question. Some of the questions that have come in, you have answered them inadvertently, and thank you very much. The last one, I want to give you a chance to share a fun story with us. What was your very first service project that you did as a Rotarian?
Oh, man. Well, as a Rotarian.
Okay. If you can't think of the first, what's your favorite?
Well, no, I'm going to actually go with the first thing I did as a service thing, and it's maybe not necessarily service in a direct capacity, but it's something that means something to me. I know that when I joined my Rotary Club, I was probably in it for a couple of months max when I was tapped to chair our annual Lobster Fest, which I joined in October and it was the following May. And I was getting married in June. And I remember thinking to myself, this is, I've never, it was, 800 people, 1,000 metric tons of lobster, way over my event planning threshold at that point in my life. And so it was a challenge that I had to sort of be talked into it. But then once I did it, and so to say service, it's service maybe through providing the opportunity to learn. I think that it was one of the ways that I truly became hooked on our organization because I grew so much during that experience. And it gave me an opportunity to have an authentic, real service, hands-on experience right out of the gate. And so I'm picking that one because I think it's a great way to maybe reflect upon what we offer to our new members when they walk through our doors. And I've heard this happen even in my own club. Well, no, they can't share it. They haven't been in long enough. They don't have enough experience. You know what? I didn't. We figure it out, and others are around us to make sure that we don't fall down and to guide and to steer us. And we make sure that when we ask someone to do something, that maybe we have our hand along with them as they do it, just in case they need that little bit of help when they ask. But allowing people to have that opportunity to grow is so profoundly important. And so it's maybe not one of those hands-on service elements directly, from one person, from me to another person or group or local or international, but it certainly is a way of defining our membership opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I believe we are out of time to ask any more questions, but we all want to thank you so much for participating in the question and answer section. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Linda and Jennifer. We appreciate you so much. Jennifer, on behalf of both the Kansas City International Rotary Club and the Empowering Women in Rotary, we would like, if I can find it here, because my screen just went down. Of course, that always happens. I had it up and it's gone. Here we go. Okay. We'd all like to thank you for sharing your authentic reflections on how Rotary helped you grow in your own personal growth and development journey. Let's all be dreamers, cross mentors to our youth, and peace builders. So in honor of your speech today, we would like to donate to Polio Plus in your honor. And please join us, all participants, in donating in Jennifer's name to endpolio.org. Also, our Empowering Women in Rotary would like to donate $100 to a very good friends at KCI Rotary Club to the charity of their choice. And surprise, surprise, Jennifer mentioned it just a while ago, we were going to surprise you. Her birthday is tomorrow, so let us be the first to wish you happy birthday. And please, yes, please join with me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jennifer. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Susan. That's so beautiful. Thank you. I
Thanks.
really appreciate that. It's been really a
Thank
lot of joy being with you all.
Good. And for anyone that would like to make a donation to the Rotary Foundation in Jennifer's honor, please see the link on your screens. Thank you, everyone. And Jacob, let's wrap this up.
Thank you, Susan. In today's, in a Rotary fashion, we are going to end on time. A recording of today's webinar will be located on our website, kcirotaryclub.com, and on the Empowering Women in Rotary website at ewiRotary.com shortly after conclusion of today's meeting. At this time, I would like to conclude today's meeting with a four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? With that, this concludes today's meeting. Thank you all for attending today. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And again, Jennifer, on behalf of our club and Empowering for Women, thank you for attending.
Excellent job, everybody.